Ladies and gentlemen, respected guests, Assalamu alaikum. Before we begin any event, we must do so with blessings of Allah. I would call upon Muhammad Fayaz for tilawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لأسفلن يومئذ عن النعيم صدق الله العظيم.
The political scenario might have been uncertain lately, but we at ITA and ASER believe that nothing should stop education for children in Pakistan. We are thankful to our esteemed guests and panelists for coming here and fulfilling their promise of being here. Thank you very much. ITA, in collaboration with ASER, National Commission of Human Development and its partners across the country, would like to welcome you all to our auspicious event. As some of you may know, this is the 7th and the largest ASER survey that has been conducted in Pakistan, covering nearly the entire length and breadth of the country. We are honored to have you with us today to witness its launch and show solidarity to a nationwide commitment for improving the education and access and hence the lives of all Pakistani children. To start the proceedings, I would call upon Sahar Saeed, Program Head, ASER, Deputy Director Research, ITA, for opening and welcoming remarks.
Thank you so much, Maham. On behalf of ITA, ASER Pakistan and Right to Education teams, we would like to formally welcome you all on 7th annual launch of ASER Pakistan. Like previous year, this year also we managed to cover almost about 80,000 plus households, 250,000 plus children, and also 4,000 plus schools across Pakistan. I would also like to acknowledge our partners such as Democratic Commission for Human Development, National Commission for Human Development, Center Education Foundation, HANDS, Human Development Foundation, and many of our local partners who have helped us in actually achieving this goal of ASER, who have helped us to reach out to all these households with a force of 10,000 plus volunteers. Thank you all to our esteemed panelists, our guests, and other civil society partners such as Alif Alan, ISEFs, everybody who has actually took out time to be here. Thank you very much. And let us officially begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahar. Esteemed guests, if you kindly see on the table, you would find that there is a play card that is red on the one side and green on the other. Can you find it on your tables? Yes. Please take out these cards as we are about to begin an exciting activity before the great reveal of ASER 2016. We are about to test your guessing skills now. Let's have an icebreaker session and bring you on your toes. We'll flash a few questions on the screen, the answers to which you would agree or disagree. In case you agree to a statement, please show the green side of the card. If you disagree, please show the red side of the card. Show it move it above your shoulder so I can see and record the answers. Let's begin. Okay, so the first statement, less than 50% schools in FATA, federally administered tribal areas, had usable water available. How many of you agree and how many of you disagree? Okay, so I think most of the people agree. Let's see what the answer to this is. So 68% schools had usable water in FATA. Okay, let's see the next statement. The use of cell phones is reported in less than 50% of the entire household in Pakistan. Agree or disagree? Most of the people disagree. Let's see what's the right answer. Around 68.7% houses are mobile phone users in Pakistan. Okay, let's have a look at the next statement. The learning levels nationally in arithmetic have dropped in ASER 2016 as compared to ASER 2013. Agree or disagree? Okay, I think there's a mixed response, so let's see what's the answer. Learning levels in arithmetic in the year 2013 in ASER were 43%, and they have increased to 48% in the year 2016. So I think that's a great news. Okay, let's have a look at the next statement. Less than 10% of households are WhatsApp users in Balochistan. Most of the people disagree. Let's see. Okay, so around 23% households in Balochistan were reported to use WhatsApp. Most of you were right. Let's move forward. The highest beneficiary of Benazir Income Support Program is Sindh, and the second highest beneficiary households are Punjab. Do you agree or disagree? Okay, most of the people disagree. Let's see what the answer is. Highest 26% in Sindh, KP 23%, standing as the second largest recipient of Benazir Income Support Program. Okay, I think it was a great session with you, all of you people, and I hope all of you are energized now. So ASER is a citizen-led assessment of the children of Pakistan. It's a report compiled by tireless efforts and increased interest of our volunteers who come out of their homes and decide to contribute to the betterment of education system in Pakistan. We have within us a few volunteers of ITA and Education Youth Ambassadors sitting among us. I would request them to stand at their places so all of you can see them and applaud them. If you could please pass on the mic so we can ask them some questions. Okay, I think we begin with Sadaf. Sadaf, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Assalamualaikum everyone.
That's working.
That's working? Okay. I'm representing Human Development Foundation Islamabad, and my colleague Mr. Ankur is also with me. And this is, should I also share my experience?
Yes, please tell us about your ASER journey. Yes, please.
Okay, before I share my experience, how the organization conducted the ASER survey, I must say that ASER brought a data revolution in Pakistan. Whenever it comes to statistics about the learning levels of students, we just refer this ASER survey report. And it was no doubt a wonderful experience conducting ASER survey. And we were lucky that we conducted two surveys with ASER surveys, one in 2013 and it was in Koti. And second time in 2016 we conducted a survey in 6 districts.
Mhm.
Although we also faced some few challenges like,
Yes,
especially for females,
Mhm.
people were really reluctant that why you people are coming here and what sort of data you will collect from us.
Okay.
But as we trained by ASER team and that recent that was conducted in Lahore,
That's right.
so we followed all the guidelines and we told people that this is a very simple survey and we are just knowing about the status of the learning level of the students, that's it. So we intervened in the community by community. So this was the really good approach. जो असर ने हमें एक प्लेटफॉर्म दिया और गाइड किया कि आपने किस तरह से कम्युनिटी में इंटरवीन करना है, तो that was I guess wonderful. So it was overall it was very fine.
Thank you, sir. Could you please pass on the mic?
My name is Azhar Hussain. I am representing from HDF. In ASER survey, it was a great experience for us, especially the involvement of parents and teachers in survey, and the children were getting involved themselves, and it was a very lesson-learned activity. जब हम फील्ड में जाते थे तो उसमें कम्युनिटी के जो लोग थे उनके लिए एक बड़ी अच्छी एक्टिविटी थी जिसमें कि पेरेंट्स ने खुद को इन्वॉल्व किया। कुछ पेरेंट्स थे वो खुद अपने बच्चों को इंट्रोड्यूस कराते थे कि इनको भी जो है ना इनका टेस्ट भी लें और इस तरह से इनको भी इन्वॉल्व करें सर्वे में। सो इट वाज अ ग्रेट एक्सपीरियंस फॉर अस and all the credits goes to IT, I think, Idara, Taleem, Aagahi and ASER. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I would now like to call upon the CEO, Idara, Taleem, Aagahi, Bela Jamil, to kindly take the podium and take you through the major findings of ASER 2016.
Assalamu alaikum. It's always a pleasure and always with a heavy heart, but looking for some silver linings that we come to present this data, the largest citizen-led data on learning assessment and accountability on education in Pakistan. This, of course, would not have been possible without the support of thousands of volunteers who collect this data, as Sahar has acknowledged already, but also through the civil society organizations as well as semi-autonomous organizations of the government, including NCHD, education foundations who support us. So acknowledging them one more time is not a bad idea at all before we share the results. But I'm very pleased also to see in these very tumultuous times, but perhaps where we see the maturity of society at an incredible form, in spite of all the political turmoil, that we are sitting at a very historical juncture. At 5 o'clock today, we'll have the cabinet announcement, so I've heard. So that's why a lot of the political parties and their representatives who are here have to be sitting in a huddle as this gets decided. And I think this is a great time to be able to see and inform them about the data and the evidence which must at least influence both their political party manifestos and more importantly, the actions that come on ground. The interim Prime Minister, who took his oath yesterday, mentioned education as one of his lead priorities in a very clear form, and I think that's great news indeed for us. But may I just also take this opportunity to thank our panelists who are here today, and we will be talking to them later, and I thank them for being here and being with us to share and also to respond to some of this data. And these are all people who are activists in their own right and who in many ways are trendsetters for education policies and reforms and implementation. We have with us Dr. Asad Zaman, Vice Chancellor of HITE, who's amidst us. We have Nargis Sultana from the Foundation of Open Society Institutes, who's also again a partner for ASER since day one. They were believers in this. We have at the other extreme Helen Kamal, who's heading Ilm Ideas 2. Again, an amazing innovation initiative supported by DFID, but who have come to support this entire effort because it is the learning results which then inform actions. And whatever you see around the marketplace from Ilm Ideas 2 is what makes us give hope that we have to see where traditional and new ways of learning have to merge to be able to give the acceleration that education deserves. We have also Ed Davies from DFID, again another big supporter who's been with us and is also a great believer in this entire effort led by citizens. And as you know, that this work is not just led by our citizens in Pakistan, but in 16 countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where almost 6 of the high-line population countries are reflected in this movement called the People's Action for Learning Network. We have our activist, Tahira Abdullah, who's a human rights defender, as she likes to call herself, but has been there with ASER throughout and uses this data all the way through. DG BEX, the Basic Education Community Schools under the Ministry, the Federal Ministry of Education and Professional Training, who again is an innovator and would like to see BEX redefined in such a way that they can reach out to the most important communities which are being left out with an imprint which is in over 12,000 communities of Pakistan. And I'm very pleased to see amongst us Ms. Joanna Reid, head of DFID Pakistan, and a great supporter of ASER for a long time, and I hope for a long time to come, as they are in the footprint of education reforms across Pakistan. And you know, I think we need to give DFID a huge round of applause for what they've been doing with the governments as part of the mainstream efforts to be able to see that actually reforms take place in a systemic manner and not just as something which comes and goes, but is very much part of the government's own budgets and take things forward. So here we take, so thank you very much, and we with us, and all of you who are here today above all. I believe throughout there will be tweets and there will be much happening in the social media space, and I'm so glad that the marketplace partners are so social media savvy, and so many of you among us. So we will see things happening and news of the data reaching far and wide. And when we say this, we are saying that today we are sharing the results, and we always say provisional till anybody, because people can challenge, and also that these are of rural Pakistan. So please remember that. And we have a large urban population, but what is reflected is mainly from the rural Pakistan and right across. So this is our 8th launch, and always I think we remember that this time we are looking at, since 2015, we are looking at data which is committed since 2010 to 25A, the fundamental right to education as given by the Constitution finally. So we are all very excited about that and empowered and like to see much more activism on 25A. So, and luckily ASER is mapped to 5 to 16, so in many ways it informs where we are on our right to education efforts. But since 2015, and I must admit that we pushed for ASER and the data, not just from Pakistan, but all the PAN network countries, to inform the Sustainable Development Goal 4, so that we would not just have access and inclusion, but we would also have learning as a very central part of the action for education. Because without learning, we do not really get to education. So, but 25A, again reminding ourselves, the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of age 5 to 16 years in such a manner as may be determined by law. And we are pleased to see that we have now all 4 provinces who have passed the legislation. The last one was Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So at least we've got that in order. The implementation has to move forward. Seher has shared most of the results, but cumulatively, we have over the years reached 1.5 million children, 33,000 schools, 25,000 plus or 26,000 households, villages and blocks, and over 500,000 households. We've had 50 partners and 52,874 volunteers. This is not a small achievement, but I think that's the kind of scale we've been talking about in the way we have negotiated ASER, and as a part of that, Pakistan can work through alliances and partnerships. That's something we need to remember as we look for solutions to improving learning, and inshallah that too will happen. And I think this is a very decisive moment for us to see this kind of footprint and how we can build on this footprint in the years to come on improving learning outcomes, which in turn will lead to all the indicators moving up. Next, please. So, goal setting of SDG 4, pushing forward 25A, reminding us again what is ASER and what are the ASER assessment tools that have been devised. The ASER assessment tools, reminding you once again, are really pitched at grade 2, a little bit of grade 3 level competencies, nothing more. Technically, they should be looking at grade 3 or what is seen as lower primary, what is seen as SDG 4.1.1A, the lower primary age group. But we do report the data to several age groups and grades, but also to grade 3 and to grade 5. And that, I think, needs to be gelling in that when we are reporting for grade 5, we are essentially talking about lower primary competencies. So that's our challenge. And secondly, we are looking at data more importantly at the household level. At any given time, and you will see this, that we do not have all children who are enrolled attending schools. Many are absent. So that's why this is a household level data set, because it goes to, penetrates households and takes account every child who's there from 3 to 16 and for overall enrollment and 5 to 16 on learning, whether they're in school or not, whether they're in government or public or private or madrasa or non-formal, it all gets mapped out. And in the household, it allows us to penetrate also on the profile of the households, their literacy profile, and more importantly, on indices of equality or inequality, because we generate a wealth index. And we don't stop at that. Then we go in that same village or this block to see what is happening in the schools. What is the state of schools where the children are coming from? And that gives us a fuller picture of what we are about to share with you. Because this story is not about just what we take one-on-one with the child. It is one-on-one with the child. We're also talking about where does the child live and which school does the child go to, and what kind of enabling or disabling conditions the child has to confront. So it gives you a full idea. And the test is only on Urdu, Sindhi, Pashto as one language, depending whatever the medium of instruction is, English as a second language, and arithmetic for numeracy. So it is essentially a literacy and numeracy test for lower primary education. So this year again, over 250,000, a quarter of a million children that we have reached out to. We reached out to 144 districts. A couple of districts got left behind, and it is very important to share with you कि जो हमारी conditions हैं आजकल, जहाँ पे अगर हमें ISI और agencies रोक देती हैं, फिर हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Mercifully, it was not in many more districts, but a couple of districts did get left out because we didn't get permission to go and do the assessments. 4,200 villages, 5,500 schools. But remember the scale, it's 83,000 to 90,000 households each year. This is a large data set, 600 households per district. So the national findings, and you know, there's a lot of discussion on early childhood. Early childhood is a buzzword these days. Not just globally, but also in Pakistan. Many policies on early childhood have happened. Oh, what is the story on our early childhood years, we do just see enrollment for that. We've seen that we've had 36% of children of 3 to 5 years of age who are right now enrolled in some form of early childhood education in public or non-state schools, but the largest number of children are still sitting in government schools, 63% versus 37% in private school. And that's, I think, something that we need to think about more and more, that if that's happening, what can we do on implementation beyond the buzz of policies and sector plans? 6 to 16 years of age, 81% of all our children, and this data is the same as last year. We haven't seen this is rural data we are sharing. Again, 74% children in rural areas are sitting in government schools versus 26% in private schools in the rural areas. Next, please. We have a area and province by province comparison, and we will see that we have Azad Jammu Kashmir, a very high percentage of children of that age group who are already sitting in school, 97%, and our lowest is Balochistan, which has slipped some from last year at 65%. The rest of the data is in front of you, but we are seeing Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa at 86%, you can round out to 90, but remember this is rural data. These are also urban, partly urban areas as well. We don't have that data here. And so they're touching 90%, but we are worried on 78% in Sindh and Balochistan, 65%. And contrary to whatever we think, every year we report that FATA is doing well, and it is at already at 84%, and moving ahead on many of our indicators. The gender gap remains, and the gender gap remains the same. We have out of school children, we see 11% girls last year and also this year, and 8% boys last year and this year. And of course there are going to be in the report many variations and disaggregate data where you see the gap narrowing, but others widening. So overall impact is that the gender gap still remains a big challenge, and those are our issues of equality and inequality and equity and inclusion, which we need to address. Last year we reported a shift actually a shift from private to public. This year we're seeing overall a shift from public to private by 2%. However, if we again look at a province such as Punjab, or even in fact the other extreme of Azad Jammu Kashmir, in Punjab we've seen a 2% plus shift from private to public as facilities improve, and in Azad Jammu Kashmir we've seen a huge shift from public to private. The challenges again of post-primary education and retaining children all the way up. All of you who are education activists, आप सबको पता है कि हमारे पास अगर 100 बच्चा क्लास 1 में आता है, तो by the time they're finishing, we've lost quite a bit. And because of 25A, we need to now push. Musharraf is sitting here, 25 million children out of school, 22 million children out of school. We are seeing more children in school, but we are still challenged by not having sufficient post-primary opportunities. We don't have enough middle schools, don't have enough high schools. Where will the children go? So you can have 15 children sitting in grade 1, and by the time this is in rural, there are only 4 left in grade 10. And that kind of bleeding of the education system, or as we say, that this is how the system is just filtering children out, not because they don't want to be in schools, but because there are not enough facilities. And this is a huge supply side challenge as well. We come to learning levels, and we have some good news to share. We look at the national level, look at the headliners at the national, this is the national launch. If you look at Urdu, Sindhi, Pashto from 2013 to 2016, and Waliur Rahman Sahab is not here, he was very keen that this is when this government came in. So what happened in 2013? So we see there were 50% children in grade 5 who were able to cope with Urdu, Sindhi and Pashto in 2013. In 2016, the percentage has improved to 52%. In English, we've seen that the percentage from 2013 to 16 has moved from 43% to 46%, which is another 3%. And then children who can do two-digit division in grade 5, remember it is again grade 2 and 3 level competencies. There were 43% children in 2013, there are now 48% children, a 5% jump in numeracy, which is not bad at all. But, you know, we've got miles to go, and I'm very pleased again to see that the many partners who are here are working on how to address some of this. Many partners here on numeracy and literacy, how to push that and give it a jump. And so I just wanted to put it into context, and you have then disaggregated data by some provinces and areas who's done wonders. I must say, when you look at your data, AJK has done wonders. And it's interesting to see that's where there's been a large shift from public to private. We are not going to any conclusions, but it's a mixed story. And obviously where there are challenges in public sector governance, sometimes private sector does respond. But these are important things because if you look at, for example, these are from India, I have other friends, you know, in Uganda, in West Africa, we're seeing a declining trend in learning levels. Persistently, even in India. And so you see something improving. I think that's something that we need to pat ourselves back on and say, how can we push this further? But there's some good news as well. We are so used to bad news, we need to sometimes look at good news and then see how we challenge ourselves with the bad news. So if you look then further, we've seen a dip in learning in Urdu, Sindhi and Pashto from 55% in 2015 to 2016 by 3%, because it's now 11% movements. This is all grade 5. And we see here, FATA comes at the bottom, then Sindh and then Balochistan, right at the bottom. Those are our biggest challenges that we have to take this forward when we look at province and area-wise data on learning. Another dip from last year, English grade 5, 49% in 2015 to 46%, a 3% dip in 2016. Again, if we look at the area-wise distribution, and we'll see that Sindh is at the lowest with FATA and then Balochistan. And again, those are what our challenges are. And all of us who are working in different places in the country, you will see that this is where our challenges are. Next, please. Arithmetic, a dip of 2% from last year, from 50 to 48% for the two-digit division. Improvement from 2013 to 2016, but last year we had improved and we're hoping that we move forward, but there's a dip. And again, Sindh at the bottom, then FATA and Balochistan, Azad Jammu Kashmir right at the top, with Punjab at number 2, then Balochistan and Islamabad Capital Territory. And you have this all there. So the gender challenge is not only at the enrollment level on access. The gender challenge remains and translates into learning level challenges. I do encourage you in the report some excellent notes that have been put forward by various authors who've been very closely associated with ASER, जो दिखाते हैं कि जब लड़कियां स्कूल नहीं पहुंच सकती तो फिर उनकी लर्निंग चैलेंजेस भी बहुत होते हैं, बिकॉज लड़कियों को अक्सर अपने घरों में और भी ज्यादा चैलेंजेस होते हैं. सो वो दोनों दो किस्म के उनके इतने तरह तरह के चैलेंजेस होते हैं, तो जाहिर है वो फिर लर्निंग चैलेंज भी उसका असर हमें उसकी अक्कासी नजर आती है. So if you look at the challenge, it's quite significant. You look at about a 7 to 8% challenge in between boys and girls in Urdu, Sindhi and Pashto. 43% boys, and the learning level is 36% for girls. In arithmetic, 44% for boys, 36%, and English 40 and 33%. Again, when you look at area-wise, you see this gap narrowing in some places, widening in some places. And that is a cause of major concern to us in this country, where we are fighting for issues of gender equality, of inclusion, of empowerment, and so many of you are working here. This is where we need to get at. Public-private, sadly, the divide remains. No matter what you do, even if you were to do all kinds of statistical analysis here, we will still see that there is a gap between public and private sectors. Of course, you will see in the data that children from private schools take far many more tuitions than children from government schools, and it is progressive all the way up. But yes, and then maybe their parents are also better educated. You've got all these areas, but private schools outperform public sector schools, and this remains a concern for us. I mean, it's significant at 20%, 25%, and that's a concern for us. And again, you'll see variations where the gap is narrowing. We have kept the narrative of the public and private alive. For example, in India, they do not look at the private sector. We do. We do because this is... Welcome, Rafiq Tahir Sahab. Rafiq Tahir Sahab was holding the fort of the ministry, and he said, when you came last week, what did you do? And Majibur Rahman Sahab and Ahsan Iqbal Sahab both, as great champions who wanted to be here, and are there not because they didn't want to be here, because there are important party meetings going on. I think we said we welcome you as champions of education and as MLAs, people who have been fighting for the cause. But thank you very much, Rafiq Sahab, our Joint Education Advisor from the Federal Ministry of Education and Professional Training, who is with us. Thank you. So the tuition trend, as I mentioned, that we've seen a dip in the private sector from 2015 to 16, but still the private sector is what really is involved in taking tuitions, even in rural areas, for other than what happens inside the schools. So this is what my friend Mark Bray calls the shallow education system, which means that you have these coaching classes happening parallel to their schools, and that's where the learning edge comes or whatever. But we have in rural areas only 7% government schools where there is tuition taking place because of affordability or whatever, but in the private sector it is 27%. We look at parental education, and again something that we have seen over the years. I think there's been a 4% jump from mothers in 2013 at 26%, now coming to 30% who have big education up to primary, and 52% fathers. There's been an improvement for both sets of mothers and fathers. Next, please. And now we come to school facilities. So of course the learning levels that we quote have a lot to do with what kind of an environment is inside the schools, and we do share that every time. Again, rural data, we look at teacher attendance. We've seen that teacher attendance has gone up a lot in government schools if we look at, but it's 87% or rounded off to 90, and private sector is 92%. There was a much wider gap. This gap has narrowed. In children attendance is 83%, and in private sector, 84%. This is a cause for concern. Why are children not coming to school? Why? Even though facilities may be improving, we have this big issue. And I think that's again for partners over here, that how do we work on more children attending the school on every given day? I remember a slogan, every child in school, every child attending every day, and every child learning. And that's what I think a lot of the governments are working towards. So this remains a challenge. We have government primary schools in terms of usable water, 60%, private schools, 85%, usable toilet, 54%, and usable toilet in private school, 84%. Having said that, again, when we look at the data, we see, for example, in Punjab and in KP, that their usable facilities have gone up into 90%, 88%, etc. So that's, I think, again, a cause for work. In some places, you see facilities improving because the government has put their minds to it, and it's happening. Again, in boundary walls, even though you see 65% boundary walls here in government schools and 81%, we see again in some places, like in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, up boundary walls at 84% or 86% already, some in rural areas, and moving to 100%, and in Punjab also at about 96%. So when you look at disaggregated data, you see some places where this is really moving ahead. School receiving grants, of course, our main attention is always on public sector schools, because public sector and some education foundation schools, but public sector schools, there are now many different types of grants coming. Not just the SMC or school council grants, but also grants coming in non-salary budgets or school-specific budgets, which is a great thing that's happening. And again, you'll see in the disaggregated data, we will be doing the provincial launches, that both in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the grant level has jumped quite a bit and is large. The size of the grant is also big. How do we begin to convince ourselves and our governments that give more grants, believe and trust in the school councils and communities that they will do wonders with the grants when they come to the school and you give them authority to spend the money. Multi-grade teaching, I will say that in public sector schools over the years this has come down, but still we are seeing 44% of children in grades 1, 2 and 3 who sit together in public sector schools, and private is now 29%, and always public sector schools have been much less on multi-grade teaching in middle schools, because remember, in elementary schools the facilities are far better, much better even than private sector, so 11% and 15%. We're coming almost to the last point. The last point area is very important. Each year we do some form of innovation. कुछ तो फर्क करना है, कुछ तो और जानना चाहिए कि क्या हो रहा है घरों में या बच्चों में. 2 साल पहले we started work on जो हमारे माजूर बच्चे, children with different abilities or children with disabilities, and we have been using the Washington survey. We've been supported by the Real Center in Cambridge University, who've been a part of all of this. And we have 7 questions on disability and health functioning, and this time we covered both Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We also did indicators in the household level on technologies in use, on alternate energies, and also on voter patterns. Next year is election year, so therefore we need to know how are people registered as voters in the difference, and school information was collected on similar areas. We see in Punjab children with mild disabilities as 2.1% and with moderate to severe disabilities at 1.054%. So generally speaking, we are seeing about 3.2% in children in Punjab, children with some form of disabilities. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we see roughly about 2.9% children with mild disabilities and 0.75 or 1% children with moderate to severe disabilities. And actually, when you look at this data a little bit deeper, you'll be amazed to see how that a large percentage of mild children with mild disabilities go to government schools and are learning almost at the same level as children with no difficulties, with no disabilities. So a little bit more attention will get the story of SDG 4 on inclusion so well protected, at least for children with disabilities. So, and I'm very happy to see some innovations in disabilities emerging now in Pakistan. But again, the income inequalities, we do what is called a wealth index, and it allows us to divide the households by quartiles. And when we look, so what is there to look at? What we dare look at is the worrying part, the most worrying part. Of course, it's obvious that children from the richest quartile and the poorest quartile, there'll be a difference. But children in the poorest quartile, and this issue has persisted, there's almost a 20% difference in enrollment between the poorest quartile children, boys, and children, poorest girls. Always girls far behind. And again, that is the low-hanging fruit. That's where we need to be able to address the issues of bridging the gender gap. If we have to put in money, if the ministry and, in fact, mashallah, all the provincial governments who sit in together in the interprovincial education ministerial consultation every quarter, that's what they need to do, to get the girls who are the most vulnerable addressed through this. And many initiatives have started, such as Punjab has started, for example. They have increased the stipend to 1,000 rupees per month for girls in grades 6, 7 upwards. And I think that's happening in other provinces as well. And again, at the learning levels, we see, again, in the richest, so if you look at the blue line right at the bottom, if you see the poorest, from the poorest quartile, 21% learning level in Urdu, Sindhi and Pashto for boys, we see only 15% for girls in that poorest quartile. So it's again a 5-6% difference in learning, and that persists. So when we have a more granular approach to inequality and the data sets, we begin to understand how to take this forward and what our challenges are. What are the enabling indicators? So we looked at households this time of who's using technologies. 70% of the households are using mobiles, out of which 55 or 56% are using SMSs, and this is rural, and 26% are using WhatsApp already. We have 20% households in rural areas using solar panels, alternate energies, and as earlier you had that question, where do you think it's being used most? You'd be amazed to see, yes, it's being used in Fatah, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, a whole lot more, but also in Balochistan. Almost 17% using computer laptops at home, and social safety nets, and we've heard a lot of deeper penetration of social safety nets. We have, of course, the BISC, which is very well known. We also have Ahuvat, and we also have now in Punjab, the Punjab Social Protection Authority, which is emerging as another body to offer social protection through these conditional or unconditional cash transfers. So we have 18% covered there, and amongst registered voters, we have 89% females and 93% males. So with the election, how do we empower people to come out and vote and have a voice? In government schools, solar panels are still getting there, and again there's a disaggregation. In some places, you'll see far more use of solar panels in government schools, but overall nationally it's 8% and 11% in private schools. Computer labs, more in government schools, 33% than in private sector at 30%, and smart boards, 24% in government schools and 31% in private sector schools. So I think there is really huge room for work that is happening over here to these innovations to be embedded in these places. We need to just target right and get the results right. And when we look at this, and this is almost the second last slide for you, but this is what we need to observe. The social distance and the learning distance between households and schools. This needs to be, there has to be a more conversations taking place. 72, we had nationalization, we had a break. We need to be able to look at spaces where they will be able to bridge the learning gap through progressive actions taking place in homes and progressive actions taking place in schools. What can be done in finding, securing these alternate innovative learning spaces to be able to accelerate learning? That's one thought, juxtaposing both sets of data that we showed to you earlier. And lastly, the next slide please. If we are looking at low indicators and indicators which are challenging inequality, whether they are of enrollment, learning, gender, facilities, disparities in income, inclusion, etc., they will automatically translate into very high costs for social protection. We know that in Pakistan, and we've got, all of you have seen different kinds of data on poverty, malnutrition, low incidence of child registration cards. NAGRA does such a great job on CNICs. I wish we, by magic, we can have a revolution of every child having a smart card, which is the child registration card. NAGRA, where costs can be waived, and every child from the day they are born, without very many complications, they can get this, and that will be an SMS service so that whether it's immunization, whether it is getting to school on time so that we have the right age of enrolling, whether it is child labor, so anybody who's employing has to get that, otherwise the fines will be, if they don't SMS their child registration cards to see whether the child is a child or not, or child marriages, etc., which addresses issues of high vulnerability and resilience, especially when we have volatile conditions of violence, conflict, displacement. This is there to stay globally, but what can we do to stabilize this? So this is basically what we wanted to share with you. And of course, wanting to end with that, ASER's impact continues to grow. We want to see this impact deeper and deeper. We want to see this impact beyond just books to action. And already it is taking place. We are very pleased to see so many of the Ilm Ideas 2 partners who are using the ASER tools. Many, in fact, also inspired. The LND, the Literacy and Numeracy Drive in Punjab, using their WhatsApp now and learning, are also inspired by the lower primary. So, and generally it is quoted everywhere. But we want this benchmarking to go deeper into actions. And I hope that we will be able to get that moving, and we will see that this is being used not just in universities like Durham and Cambridge and Columbia, etc., but used in more and more, and that's why I'm very happy that Vice Chancellor is sitting with us as a Zaman Sahib, to see this raw data which will be available from this evening onwards, to be used more and more in research that takes place over there. Thank you. I think we are really at the end. We just wanted to see that this referencing and benchmarking, as I said, goes beyond. We request everyone to put this data on the websites, everyone, and we're very thankful always to the ministry and to many other organizations of the government, including the Ministry of Planning, Development and Reforms and others who put this data, and RSUs and PMIUs of every department who've got it, but everybody is accessible. This data is available. Alif Alam, of course, uses data for the district education rankings, and I'm, as I said, very thankful for Alif Alam for pushing us to make sure that this data comes this year and we can actually do the district rankings, because that's how actually we get our actions right. Thank you very much, everyone, and I know that we are running short of time, but we'll try and move fast ahead.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing the findings with us. We have some very interesting sessions coming up, but before that, I would like all of you to kindly draw your attention towards the stage as we are about to officially launch ASER 2016. The report will be uploaded to our website and the information will be open to all. Ladies and gentlemen, respected media and ASER team, we have now reached the moment we have all been waiting for. We now declare ASER 2016 open. Yes, can we have please everybody raise the reports?
This is my report. Accept the report. It's out all in your bags.
The report is inside the folder. It's inside the folder.
We would request all of our panelists to kindly rise in their places.
The media wants to have.
You want to take one, Sadaf?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I would now humbly request our honorable guest, Rafiq Tahir Sahab, to kindly come and say a few words.
Respected panelists, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor for me that I'm here on the occasion of the launch of 7th launch of ASER. It's not a very strange name for anybody in the country. If we say ASER, everybody knows what it means, what it contains, what the people associated with this report do. And at least for the ministry, and today the Honorable Minister, Believer Rahman, was due to come over here because we committed with the Madam Bella Javid that is an honor for us that we should be the part of this 7th launch of ASER. But you know the situation in the country, and he is again busy with the certain meetings, and the new cabinet maybe take course today in the evening. While my secretary again, he was due to come over here, but he had another official engagement at the Prime Minister's office. I would like to, on the behalf of the ministry, to congratulate Madam Bella Javid, Idara, Taleem, Aagahi. But I'm told that around 144 districts are covered in this report, and this is again another milestone they have achieved. It's a great success with the Idara, Taleem, Aagahi, that now they reached almost all over the country, and they touched upon to each and every door who is they are no part of this report. They reached around more than 255,000 children aged 3 to 16. They are surveyed. Around 83,324 households are reached. They are asked certain questions to them. And the ASER basically is a very unique focus. Focus of the ASER is quality and equity. And now they have collected a very unique information which is very useful, not only for the researcher but the government of Pakistan also. Because at the moment, the government of Pakistan is focusing on education. And ASER report every year contribute a lot towards the education. The ministry also every year have our education statistic report we launch every year. But ASER has some additional things, additionalities, because their focus is on the quality, which is the focus of the government at the moment, which is the priority of the government. And I'm happy to share with you that yesterday the new Prime Minister, in his opening speech in the Parliament, he mentioned about the education, and he mentioned about the three things. Quality education, that is the issue, he said. Quality education. And secondly, he was asking for the curriculum, that we must have the excellent curriculum, because the curriculum is the base for the quality education. And he was talking about the improvement, more improvement in the higher education. These three things he mentioned in the yesterday opening speech, very short speech, and he just mentioned 4 or 5 sectors of the economy, and he focused on education as well as with the health also. So this shows that the education is one of the most priority area for this government. And I would like to share with you that if you see the 4 years, the budget allocation of all the provinces, and a significant enhancement done by the provinces in allocation for education. And this is after 1800. But the ASER's data is a very useful, not for the researcher, but for the policy maker sitting in the ministry in the planning division. So, on this occasion, I would like to congratulate Idara, Taleem, Aagahi, as well as South Asia Forum for Education Development, and their wonderful contributions, and the huge volunteer team involved in this process. And this is again a wonderful example in this country. Normally we always try to make any survey looking for a huge budget, but they made possible that the volunteer of this country always like to participate in the things which have the most national interest. The present government also taking certain initiative at the national level as well as in the provincial level. The focus is the higher education, non-formal education, and the curriculum and the policy. And I would like to, and I'm happy to share with you that the new curriculum 2017 for grade pre-1 to 5 is completed now and almost approved and is going to be notified within the same week. The new National Education Policy 2017, that is almost ready and we are expecting that it will be approved in the Inter-Provincial Education Ministers' Conference in the last week of September. And the other some good achievement at the ministry level, we have done the National Standard for Quality Education. That document is approved and published now and available. And that is the first time in this country that we have the standard for quality education in the country for several areas. And recent, just 1 week back, we have approved the National Curriculum Framework. That document is approved and notified, and that will be available in the next week. And a lot of attention is given to the non-formal education during last 2-3 years. And I just see the people of Dhaka, they are sitting with us. They are working with the organization like the Basic Education Community School as well as the NCSD. So, if there are certain, I have seen these parameters yesterday, there are certain good improvements shown in this ASER report this year. And this is because of the contribution of the federal government as well as the provincial government, along with our stakeholders like the donors and all other colleagues who are working in the education sector of Pakistan. So finally, again, I will congratulate Idara Taleem Aagahi and especially Madam Bela Jamil, playing a very important and a pivot role in this. And I would also like to thanks to all the panelists sitting on the stage and also their contributions in the promotion of education in the country. So thank you so much. I hope ASER will continue and this initiative will stay in the country for a long time to get the more and the maximum benefit from the outcome of this report. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. I would now like to call upon Helen Kamal for a very interesting session she has lined up for us.
You might have guessed I'm not Helen. I'm actually Ed Davis from DFID, the Senior Education Advisor. But I'm introducing Helen's short speech as well. So forgive me, I'm not as dynamic as the other speakers. I'm going to read from the presentation that I've prepared. And I'd like to welcome the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and the education activists amongst us. It's also really good to see the federal ministry here. Not every ministry would be present at the launch of a citizen-led assessment report because often it holds the government to account. So it's great to see that the government, the federal ministry, looked at the report favourably and using the data that the report contains. I'd also like to add my thanks to Bela and her team. They've done an amazing job in a very short space of time. And I'd also like to call upon others who want to support the process of ASER, that Bela always needs friends. So if there are other supporters of this process, please do talk to Bela afterwards. ASER provides an essential piece in the jigsaw puzzle of information about the performance of the education system. It's unique in its approach in that it captures the learning outcomes of children in and out of school, as well as key indicators relating to the equality of educational opportunity in the country. Part of its role is to signal where we've got to in this journey. of having all children in school and learning to minimum expected standards. It's also there to identify the areas where we need more information or different information. And it's great to see that the ASER survey included questions around disability, an area where we can all do a lot more in Pakistan. It's also there to speed up the journey and for us to reflect on whether the goals we have, the end of the journey, if it ever does end, if we're going in the right direction. Data is important, but it's how it's used that leads to change and improvement. I think all of us can relate to the fact that when we stand on the scales in the bathroom and look at what the dial tells us, however many times we stand on those scales, it actually doesn't change the dial. It's what we do afterwards that makes a difference and makes that dial on the scales point in the right direction. Moving on to innovation in terms of improving learning and enrolment, something which Helen will talk more about. There seems to be a new favourite buzz jargon in the development community. The phrase being bandied around is disrupting markets. In my years working in education, disruption has never been a good word. It's always conjured up naughty children in the back of classrooms, which I've had to discipline in the past. But in this new jargon, disrupting markets refers to the impact that innovation and new technologies have had to transform whole sectors. Think about Airbnb. It's become the world's biggest provider of accommodation, but doesn't own a single hotel. Uber, maybe Kareem in Pakistan, has become the world's biggest taxi firm, but doesn't own a single car. In these two examples, innovation, the idea, plus technology, sometimes the hardware or the software, have transformed and disrupted markets. There's now also quite a lot of talk, usually from economists rather than educationalists, about the potential for innovation and technology to disrupt education. However, unlike an unruly teenager in a class of 30 children, the way we deliver education is proving remarkably resilient to any disruption. The global evidence base for what works in education is now relatively consistent, and the Pakistan experience fits this evidence. As Baylor has shown, the direct and indirect costs of going to school mean that poorest children, particularly those in rural areas and girls, don't enroll even when there is a school nearby. The best approach to addressing this is to adequately meet those costs through free schooling and cash transfers. Good teaching and good leadership at school and throughout the system makes the biggest impact on learning. This means getting an expected year of progress. And Rafiq Tahir Saab's talking about the standards that have been recently published recognise what a year's progress should be. I'm not here arguing against innovation and technology. On the contrary, I want to focus on what makes a difference in terms of learning and getting children into school. We shouldn't be distracted from the things that work. Overcoming poverty as a barrier to attending school, and good teaching and good leadership. So we know what works. We know how to teach reading effectively in the early grades. We know how to teach mathematics effectively at primary school. And we know how good leaders build systems and processes in schools so that they know the progress that all students are making. And then they act on this information, accelerating that progress so that children are always achieving. The role of innovation and technology is to provide a shorter and faster route to achieving these goals, or to provide a bridge until the goal is achievable. It is our focus on the goals, all children in school, good teaching, good leadership, that will deliver an expected year of learning for a year of school attended. This focus needs to be relentless. Innovation and technology are the means to get there faster and sometimes more cheaply. I'll now pass over to Helen, who heads up Digital Supported Ilm Ideas Programme, who can talk about some of the innovations supported by Digital Ilm that are developing, teaching and learning and enrolment.
So, thank you, Leila, and your team for inviting us today. And thank you, Ed, as well, for that introduction. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I'd like to do two things today. I'd like to tell you about the Ilm Ideas 2 program, and I'd like, more importantly actually, to introduce you to some of the ideas that we support. So, to begin with, what is Ilm Ideas 2? Well, we're an education innovation program, and we back new ideas with potential to improve education outcomes for children in Pakistan. Our focus is on children between the ages of 5 and 16, and we're really looking for ideas and innovations that have the potential to reach poor and marginalised children. But I have to say at the outset that that's not proved so straightforward. Now, I'll talk a little bit about why that's been the case later on. Here's what we're trying to achieve. So through the innovations that we support, we aim to improve learning outcomes and access to education for thousands of children during the lifetime of the program. But perhaps more importantly, what we'd like to leave behind is innovations that are sustained, that continue when we've gone. And we'd like to be able to contribute to changes that create the conditions in Pakistan that make education innovation more possible. We have some very interesting startups in education here today, and it's a challenge to find people who want to invest in your idea. We have some fantastic solutions that you'll see as you walk around the room, but overcoming things like government procurement rules, that's also quite a challenge. So how can we as Ilm Ideas 2 create conditions that support education innovation? That's something that we'll be thinking about a lot over the next year or so. Here's what we do to achieve those objectives. We provide grants and technical assistance to businesses, social enterprises, not-for-profits, foundations and institutions to design, test and scale up education innovations. And also, we facilitate partnerships and connections between people, institutions and businesses that support education innovation in Pakistan. So, just picking up on a point that Ed made, since we started the program, we've come to realize that innovation has, I think in marketing terms, it's got a bit of a branding problem. It's a very seductive word, is innovation, and it conjures up visions of an individual having a light bulb moment. You know, I think even looking at some of our literature, you'll see quite a lot of light bulbs. It's like, aha, you know, the eureka moment. But actually, I think what we've learned is that some of the best ideas that we're seeing are those that build on and add value to something that already exists. So they add value to the existing education service that children are getting. Or they fill a gap in provision. They're not yet transformational, but they do have the potential to speed up the pace of change and ensure that all children are in school and that they're learning more. So, as we've been selecting ideas to back, this is what we've been looking for. And I think this is where perhaps the program is a little bit different, and dare I say, a bit innovative. So, of course, yes, we're looking for innovation. And when we talk about innovation, we're looking for things that can achieve education outcomes more quickly, at a lower cost, or with greater impact, or ideally, it's something that can do all three of those things. We're also looking for evidence that the idea that's been proposed is likely to achieve results. So we want to see a clear line of sight between what's proposed and improved education outcomes. We're looking for new players who may never have worked in the education sector before, but who bring fresh ideas and approaches and different perspectives. And we're especially interested in new players from the private sector, where they bring business-based innovations that can be sustained. And finally, linked to this point about new players, we are looking for innovations based on business models and structures which enable them to fund themselves on a non-grant basis with a view to self-sustainability. And I think these last two things, the new players and the financial sustainability, that's been something new. And I can't help feeling it's important. I'm looking around today and I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, and in one way that's really a very nice thing. And there's a huge amount of expertise in the room. But for many of us, we've been working at this problem for a long time, and I think it's useful to have an infusion of new ideas. And since this program has started, we have been a little bit at an interface between education professionals and business leaders, and it's proved very interesting and very challenging. And I hope that we can see more of that in the future. But there's no denying that through using these criteria, there is a tension when we're selecting innovations to back. We do find well-designed innovations with evidence of results, but they're not sustainable. And on the other hand, we find ideas that have very strong business models, but they're unlikely to create results for poor and marginalised children. And so we've had to navigate our way through that. And it remains to be seen whether or not we have been successful. But let me introduce you now to some of the innovations that we're backing. So Mir Sabak is led by Multinet, a telecoms company that hadn't worked in education, I think, until they introduced this program. They're creating digital content based on the national curriculum for children in school and out of school. So the Sabak Digital Learning Program is presented to children on low-cost tablets in the classroom with their teachers as a way of reinforcing regular classroom instruction. So it's adding value to what's happening already. Children out of school use the same tablets at informal centres to develop critical literacy and numeracy skills. So there it's an innovation that's filling a gap. Those children, there is no school nearby. So as a temporary measure, they're able to develop those important skills. The Parwan program aims to provide high quality and affordable early childhood education for preschool-aged children, whilst at the same time creating opportunities for young adults to generate an income for themselves and their families. And that program is being implemented by Children's Global Network Pakistan. It was interesting to see the statistics on early childhood provision and to see how many children are actually in school, which is probably not the best place for a 3-year-old. With these two organisations, they actually started working with us in 2016, and we contracted a third party to assess children's learning, and we used the ASER test. And we tested children at the beginning and at the end of the first phase of the intervention. And the results are initially, they're promising. We have to learn more about them. But we found a significant and positive difference between children using Mir Sabak or attending a Parwan centre as compared with children who are in a control group. So we're using the information that we've got from the test now to work out what's working and where do we need to make improvements. The next cohort of grantees provides an interesting mix of ideas. So ASER is creating a series of comic books for children, and their intervention is very much about promoting interest in reading. Many of us are aware of the dearth of interesting materials for children to read, and this is a contribution to solving that problem. So each of the comic books is going to be about Jesus and Shiva's adventures, And with her friends, Jashush and Shiva will solve problems in her local community and beyond using her knowledge of math and science, whilst at the same time presenting a positive role model for children. And the comic books will be available in hard copy, but also disseminated online via mobile phones and radio broadcasts. Sorry, if you could just go back. Sorry. Stride is an innovative model of context-specific local planning, financing and service delivery, and it's being implemented in Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa by ISAPS, the Institute for Social and Policy Studies. This is unlike the other ideas that we back in that it isn't a business. It's being implemented in close partnership with government, with a view to them replicating and scaling up what ISAPS is doing now. So what they do is they use very context-specific, actionable evidence to develop union council level education plans. Many of us are familiar with district education plans. They're very useful, but oftentimes they don't tell you exactly what action needs to be taken. And so the planning process that ISAPS has developed is very granular, and it produces information that you can act on. And the action that is flowing out of these plans is the creation of second shift schools, afternoon schools, for children who are in middle and secondary grades where there is no school. And we saw from Bella's presentation that provision really does fall off once children complete primary schools. They're also looking at how to put in place transport schemes where the union council plans tell them that transport is an issue for children trying to get to school. Still go back one more. Ilmi and Sitari is an intervention designed and successfully implemented already by Text in Sindh. And some of you might recognize Text from your electricity bills, actually, because the software behind how it all works is applicable in many different sectors. So their intervention is about connecting the different stakeholders in the education sector and connecting them to information and about answering people's questions and queries and complaints. And so ILNI users register and submit a question, their data is stored, a case is created, and that case may be responded to immediately if it's a simple question, or if it takes longer, it will be escalated through the education department. And we're looking to help Text expand this intervention into at least one more province, and to add an extra piece around reaching teachers with information about teaching reading. Okay, now we can go to the next one. Our two newest grantees are Knowledge Platform and Braddock. Many of you, I think, are familiar with Knowledge Platform's blended learning solutions. They've been around for a while and they've been in schools for a couple of years now. But what attracted us to them recently was their business model and their interest in sort of unleashing the potential, if you like, for better teaching and learning in low-fee private schools. A lot of the information that has been collected about these schools suggests that they're not very interested in making investments in quality, but if you can position the investment as a way to help somebody build their school and generate more revenue, then maybe that is a way forward. Not with that goal in mind, but with the goal of improving teaching and learning, but it's a lever that can be used. The other organisation, Braddock, very new, is planning to use relatively low-cost technology and existing content which we liked to enable education entrepreneurs to provide paid-for tuition to secondary school students, and the fees collected will be used to provide free education for primary school-aged children who are not yet in school. I think the point about the already developed content is we get a lot of proposals to develop new content, especially digital content. There's actually a lot out there, and so what we liked about the Braddock solution was that it was using something that was already developed. And before I finish, I'd briefly like to mention, in the next slide, one of the other things we do, and that's that we partner with business incubators in Pakistan. And business incubators are organisations that are geared towards speeding up the growth and success of startups, that's new or early stage companies. IL2 is working with 5 business incubators to identify and support education startups, and some of them are here today. So please spend some time when you have a cup of tea later to come and have a look and to find out more about the innovations that we are supporting. Okay, thank you very much, and we look forward to sharing more of our work with you at another time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Let's now begin with the panel discussion. The discussion will be moderated by Bela and Taleem. The panel has already been introduced by Bela, so I think we should now begin.
Thank you very much, and this is going to be a very rapid round and of reflections for action. And I just wanted to also remind you that in your packages you have also our first brave attempt at tracking through the ASER survey the SDG 4 indicators, the global indicators only. So do have a look at it. Starting with the panel, and I think the panelists do also have to leave. I wanted to start with Tahara Abdullah, a fiery education activist, particularly the question being, what do we do? You've been looking at the gender challenges. What do you think we need to do now to be able to address this more formidably and actually with some results? Things have been moving, but not as fast as we want. Tahara.
Bahut shukriya. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. I apologize for my sore throat. I try not to speak too long so that there is a huge panel here. Unfortunately, the list of issues is too long, so I might need to go beyond my 5 minutes or whatever. So Bela will be patient with me, I think. सबसे पहले बहुत बहुत मुबारकबाद हमेशा की तरह असर इदारे तालीम और आगाही को. This is the 7th or the 8th launch of the annual State of Education report. A lot of people think that ASER is an organization and don't know what it stands for. I think today we've learned exactly what it is and what it does. Bahut bahut mubarak ho. No compromise on quality, no compromise on data, no compromise on methodology, no compromise on the volunteers. हमेशा की तरह quality का काम और ईमानदारी का काम और passion का काम, commitment का काम. Heartiest congratulations and commendations. There's a lot there. I've just received the report. I'd like to take up at least just 2 or 3 issues because of the paucity of time. There's Stand Up for Education, which is something that you've done. I'm not sure, but I think this is the first time that you've looked at the manifestos of political parties and what they say about education, what they promised to do for education. सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि उन्होंने किया क्या है, वादे तो कर लिए, but what has actually been achieved as opposed to just the promises. And I'm looking forward to there's Ms. Nahid Aziz sitting here who's been doing this work, actually looking at the manifestos and what has been achieved. So I hope she will do exactly the same thing for the upcoming manifestos as she has been doing it with past manifestos. The other issue that I'd like to take up very briefly is the curriculum and textbooks issue. Contrary to what Dr. Bela Raza Jamil said, I'm not just a fiery slogan monger and a placard carrier and a shouter and screamer on the roads. I also do some research. And I have joined my friend Peter Jacob, who used to work for the National Commission of Justice and Peace in Lahore and now has set up the Center for Social Justice in Lahore. In 2012, after the 18th Constitutional Amendment of 2010, with the right to education, Article 25A, which Dr. Jamil mentioned in her introduction and in her presentation, Peter Jacob brought out this book. It is a report on textbooks and curriculum in Punjab and Sindh provinces, which Balochistan province also uses the Punjab textbooks. So basically he covered three provinces. And from 2012 onwards, he's done an annual update with a team of people on what exactly is found in our curriculum and our textbooks. In 2015, I did exactly the same exercise, a research study for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and it's titled Textbooks of Hate or Peace, a comparative review of selected public sector textbooks of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in the new millennium. And it starts in 2002, goes on to 2007, and ends with the new government 2013 onwards, the PTI government. And I strongly recommend those who are interested in textbooks and curriculum to read this. But much more important than what Peter and I have done is highly recommended reading Mr. Javed Hassan Ali, retired government, senior government official, a secretary in the federal government. In 2007, wrote something called the White Paper to debate and finalize the national education policy. My first question to the incoming new cabinet today, this evening, and my first, I was going to say suggestion, but I will make it a recommendation, is to please dust off the white paper of Mr. Javed Hassan Ali. 10 years after it was presented to the federal government, to the federal cabinet. Several governments have come and gone since then. I think we need to dust off this excellent document and to see what's wrong with the system of curriculum and textbooks and teachers training and teachers curriculum, and to do something about it, to take action, not just to constantly give new recommendations or recycle old recommendations. In the year 1985, many of you were not born then. I was alive. I lived through the dark days of General Ziaul-Haq, as did several others sitting here and standing here. Something was introduced by the federal government, even dictators have their good moments, called the ICRA surcharge. Trillions and trillions and trillions of rupees have been collected since 1985 in the past 32 years of the ICRA surcharge. And education budgets have been increased year upon year upon year upon year. We are not at 5% of the GDP in several provinces. In one province we are. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa mein nahi pahunch gaye? Nahi pahunch gaye. Okay, so it needs to be a national figure as opposed to a provincial figure. Dr. Jameel is the statistician here. I'm zero at statistics and data. We haven't got there yet. We were supposed to get there by 2015, the end of the MDG era. We have now embarked upon 2016, upon the SDGs up to 2030. So I would recommend to the 45-day government, or the 45-day Prime Minister, or whatever you want to call it, to please focus on what really matters. Madrasas are still not registered. You spoke about, Naren, you spoke about public schools and private sector schools. We also need to focus on madrasas and what is wrong with them and what may or may not be right with some of them.
Tara, if you don't mind, and you've pointed out three major issues. One is curriculum, the second is education financing, and then madrasas. We haven't touched gender as yet. I'm going to suggest, can you just hold off? I will let you have the last word.
My last point was going to be STEM for girls, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So STEM for girls, we need science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and even arts for girls, and I think that's a big issue, and I think Al-Ifran will add to it. May I just, before I come to Joanna, I'm going to request if Dr. Asad Zaman, the Vice Chancellor of the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, to say a few words. He wrote something very impassionedly about early childhood, the first 1,000 days. And of course, we've been going to on universities like that to see how can data of ASER be used, for research purposes. But you've seen now the first time, and being a panelist, I'd like some comments, and we have about 3.5, 4 minutes, and then we'll come to Joanna to say a few words, and I'll ask those questions to Joanna to lead on from where you
we start by verse. ये अक्ल वाले यूं हमेशा हमें फरेब कमाल देंगे, जनू के दामन से फूल चुनकर खिरत के दामन में डाल देंगे. In English, it means that these people, brainy people, bright people, will forever deceive us with their appearance of reason and material causes, etc. And they will take the flowers from the altar of passion and place them at the feet of the goddess of reason. So this is the thing that actually what drives the force. I'm a great admirer of Idara and Aagahi. These are people of passion. They have sincerity, intensity, devotion. They work for a cause which is far greater than themselves. And because of this, they have achieved tremendous results. Realize work has reached thousands of households. So, and they have produced something marvelous. It is said that the statistics are the eyes with which the state sees. No matter what we do, and that is the thing, that we need a balance. Neither statistics by themselves are enough to reform the nation, as was pointed out. If you just look at your scales, that doesn't create any change. But if you don't look at the scales, you don't know what's happening, and so you can't make a plan for change without actually monitoring what is going on. So both, like the famous parable of the blind man and the lame man, we need each other. And so actually the process of education requires multi-dimensional efforts with coordinated and cooperation. So I think that one essential part of the program to bring about change involves measurement, see what works and what doesn't work. But it is definitely not enough by itself. We need a lot of different work from different dimensions, and ultimately the work will be done by those who have the energy, devotion, because in some sense it's thankless. I mean, you're working for the future of the nation. And those people who are not motivated in this way, they are on their path to ruining the world. I mean, like climatologists tell us that maybe the human race can survive only for another about 30 or 40 years, given the conditions that we are creating in our completely unrestrained greed to make maximum profits without any regard for the future. So, for the short duration that I have, I would like to just, instead of mentioning institutions and technical and the material parts, I would like to mention the 3 points that I think relate to the heart, which need to change in order to bring about significant change in the education system. One is to make the education relevant. Today we are teaching lots of things which are just irrelevant. I mean, if we go into a village and we teach students about botany, about how to grow plants, everyone will take interest. But if we teach them Jack and Jill walked up the hill, then this will not be of much interest to them. So making education relevant, then really, amazingly, very meticulous, rational research has led to the conclusion, documented by this new poverty research, that what really makes the difference is in education is not material condition, not the infrastructure, not the water supply, not the buildings, but what's in the heart of the teacher. Whether he sees the children in front of him as potential leaders, as potential revolutionaries, as people who have the power to change the world. If he sees them in that way, if he sees that this is a great trust entrusted to me, and these children, any of them can have the power to change the world, and he accordingly treats them with respect and with dignity, they will turn into that under his eye. On the other hand, he thinks that these are just poor children of no worth, then that is what will happen. So how can we inspire teachers? And it is, again, this is how can we light the fire in the hearts of the teachers? This is the key problem to solve. All other problems will solve themselves.
Thank you very much. We will keep on taking some of these good ideas and recommendations, and let's not forget what Ed and Helen had argued for. They were looking at innovations, they were looking at innovations in unusual places, and as we shared the data from ASER, including our innovations, that look at what's happening in the households, look at what's happening in the schools. But coming to the head of aid for DFID, Joanna Reid, I think, let's remind ourselves the huge role that DFID has played with the governments shoulder to shoulder in addressing issues of systemic reforms and scale at the same time. And if we have today some things that are happening in some provinces, I think it's some of that strategy that has taken place. The issue, and of course DFID works in several areas, but let's remind ourselves that ODA for Pakistan is not more than 8 to 10%. Rafiq Sahib already referred to major initiatives that are afoot on issues of curriculum, quality, etc. Tahira reminded about all that. But we have a larger challenge, as I mentioned, of social protection. ASER is not just about learning, it's issues of how children learn and under which conditions. And I think DFID in that sense has been taking on a wider role in Pakistan with the Pakistani government on issues of social protection, learning, health, etc. Joanna, this is your first time that you've attended the ASER launch. DFID has been closely linked to it, supported it. We'd like this to be a support for many years, at least till 2030, but of course with many more partners as well. In terms of how something like ASER, as an evidence-based footprint across the country, how do you see in the larger context of DFID's portfolio, where does this fit? And what could be our way of influencing as citizens the support that you bring to Pakistan and supports that the citizens of UK expect from their taxes in Pakistan for the benefit of the citizens that matter and the beneficiaries that look for stability amidst lots of vulnerability. So it's over to you. You have a large portfolio, you can shoot from wherever, but we're excited to hear, since this is your first presence in the ASER launch, of where the taxpayer money goes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Zaman was just noting that I had some notes in front of me, but I'm going to have to throw them away, I think, because of the question you've just asked me, because that's not what they say. I feel very humbled to be here. I'm not an education expert. I am head of DFID's biggest overseas aid programme, and I won't be brief, but I do want to share some thoughts. But I think both of the previous speakers have demonstrated passion and what I said to Dr. Salman was, but this is your profession, you teach, that's what you do, and I think you have the heart of a teacher, and for me that came across really strongly, and you have the heart of an activist and a professional researcher, and I think that's come across as well. So from the donor's point of view, I mean, I've been really struck by the richness of the information here. So it's not just about the numbers, but the detail below that, the depth of the information, highlighting things like disability. Some of the data are shocking, some of them are quite heartening. For example, use of solar power or the number of women registered to vote. There's some really good stuff in there. And accountability, I think with what's going on in the country, that's the word on everyone's lips at the moment, is this about accountability. And of course, as you say, we are accountable to our taxpayer. And the biggest question that they ask, that Daily Mail asks on a regular basis is, why are you giving aid to Pakistan? And the point, but it's not about the cash. It is about the support and the challenge, and I think what we do bring to the table is a very honest relationship with government at federal level and provincial levels. We can bring money, but we also bring a challenging friendship to Pakistan. So the data is important because we need to think, are we making a difference? So there's the data, but it isn't. It's the learning challenge, and I think that's what's come out. Because at one point, donors, it was all about the number of children in school. How many children are we getting into school? Are we getting the percentages? We've moved beyond that. And donors can be part of the problem. We're very conscious of that. I hope we can be part of the solution by helping to bring the international spotlight. And Pakistan's putting itself in the spotlight with this kind of reporting. It's not just about the numbers now, it's about getting kids into school, but also then staying there longer and learning more. And that's what the data here tells us. What are they actually learning? And some of the statistics should really worry us. And it should move us out of our complacency at these wonderful attendance figures that look fantastic. We've got to go beyond that and look at the learning. The money challenge, we've highlighted that. I think we do have to acknowledge the commitment there is, and one of the reasons that we are, our portfolio has grown, and into education is still the biggest thing that we do, and across the world globally, education in Pakistan is the biggest thing that we do globally in education. But it's in the context of the commitment that we find in Pakistan. It's a virtuous circle. We have to acknowledge that. And it's great to hear that the new Prime Minister reference education. But we're not there yet. We're not at 4% or 5%. We need to keep challenging that also. And if you don't mind, I will bring in the girls' story, because for me that's extremely important. We've heard that the gender gap persists, and we've heard that it's more pronounced the poorer you are. We're not surprised, but we should still be shocked. I've really enjoyed reading recent stories about girls coming top in exams across Pakistan. That's great as a woman to read that. And the disaggregated data allows us to make sure that girls are getting the opportunity to take those exams and shine. They have, across the world, with due respect to colleagues here, we know that girls do well, we know they do better than boys, actually. So the girls need to be given that opportunity. And educating girls isn't just the right thing for a country to do, it's a smart thing to do. Clearly girls can shine in any profession they want to, but educating girls means that they grow up to marry later, have children later, and have fewer children. And that's good for slowing population growth. Pakistan needs to think about that. But women who have fewer children can feed and educate those children in turn. And economic empowerment of women, allowing them to contribute to economic growth in Pakistan is just a no-brainer. It's a really positive thing to do. And the reason I'm mentioning this partly is because DFID has just co-hosted with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and UNFPA a family planning summit in the UK. Again, Pakistan did the right thing by putting itself in the spotlight and saying, we're committing to making sure that women have choices. It's a smart thing to do. So educating girls, it's not just a double benefit. I counted 3 benefits. I counted a triple benefit in there. So thank you for the disaggregated data that keeps our attention on girls.
Thank you, Joanna, and hope we continue to have your support in the work we do through ASER, Assessment and Learning Improvement. And I just wanted to add to that. If you look closely at the data for Islamabad Capital Territory, where the enrollment levels are high and girls' enrollment levels are high, not one of the 2 areas other than educate where the girls have surpassed boys in their learning achievements. So once the girls are there, we see higher learning achievements, and girls always go all the way out, they don't stop. It's just a question of where that critical mass is. We'll see far more action over there. We have had some very exciting stuff on innovations. We've had, in fact, some of you may not know, the Sindh government for the past 2 years has been putting aside a budget line called Innovative Initiatives, 500 million every year. Now, that's where I was telling Helen, that's the pot you need to go and find how to link some of these innovations to some pots like that. Rafiq Tahir Sahab is sitting over here, and we have to Rafiq Tahir Sahab also. Many years ago, when I was associated with the ASER Action Plan and the Ministry, we put in an Innovative Initiatives Fund there too. Perhaps that needs to come back. And Rafiq Sahab, you have a lot of influence with your secretary and your upcoming minister to see that we have innovative initiatives right here so that this can be mainstream and what was started by DFID and others can be seen as taking things forward, thinking out of the box, looking at the issues of teachers, looking at the issues of girls, especially in the most vulnerable circumstances. That's a big recommendation to you so that at least taxpayers, both here and in Pakistan, feel that the money is going to the right places where it matters. We have next to Rafiq Tahir Sahab, Abbas Khan Sahab, who's heading BEX. And thank you very much, Abbas Sahab. Just a couple of minutes of what BEX is going to do to change the way it is working. We know you have an old program for the past God knows how many years on basic education, but looking at all these innovations and possibilities and 12,000 foot areas in Pakistan where you're working, what can be different?
Thank you so much, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm grateful for this invitation because, and apart from that, I'm also very excited and happy that there is a political instability in Pakistan, which gave me a chance to, sit here. Otherwise, I was sitting in that round here. Thank you so much. And before I could, speak very briefly on the way forward about BEX, I just want to ask the audience, how many of you actually know the word BEX? Can you please raise your hands? Yeah, so this is it. This explains a lot of weaknesses with our initiative. BEX, Basic Education Community Schools initiative, was started in 1996, which makes us more than almost 22 years old. But the irony is that very few people in the neighborhood actually know us. And this has actually put us on a very weak pedestal. Innovation, and more than innovation, we need linkages and partnerships. Because even to reach to the innovation level, you need linkages and partnerships. You need to sit with all those who have a common cause, maybe. BEX is very important, strategically, I would say, for Pakistan. Because we all are aware of the turbulent law and order situation in many parts of the country. And we also keep hearing about the Operation Raddul Fasad. Let me, claim that we actually at BEX complete the equation which the military of the state is actually undertaking. Without us, there is actually this effort to put down the evil will never end. So nipping the evil in the bud is what we do. And how do we do it? It's quite exciting and quite different than what the formal systems or the private sector would do. We actually don't run any schools. We empower the communities to take their own decisions. Apart from other things, also about their educational requirements and their needs. And this is why we at BEX don't involve ourselves in monitoring the way other organizations do. We believe in a participatory model in which the communities would run their own educational affairs. So we are not only connected with the schools, we are connected with more than 12,000 communities. And why is it, so important for Pakistan. We have a very healthy and a very young demographic profile. Pakistan, let me remind you, is second only after Yemen in terms of youth bulge. And this is quite strategic for policymakers because without data, you will end up nowhere. All your efforts will end up in futility. So thank you so much, ASER, for making our lives so comfortable. Because we live in an era of data science. Data takes the decision, not the individuals. The era of discretionary, decision making should end. We are through with pilot projects and stuff. We know that education is vital for our survival now. For Pakistan, it is extremely vital. It is a matter of our survival. So how do we do it? The communities that we identify, the drive comes from them. They call us that they need a school. There is no public school or private school. And besides, even if there is a private school, the societies are so impoverished that they cannot even afford, a pair of shoes. So what to talk about a long-term 16 years of commitment in education. So through a network of 12,304 schools, we have enrolled 500,000 students in every corner of this country. And we have the capacity and the ability to even enhance this enrollment. Our strengths are the weaknesses in the formal system. In the formal system, the issue is of teacher absenteeism. Well, in BECS, that is not the issue, but that is the strength. Our teacher is always present at her home. Then, the other weakness of the formal system, your female enrollment is low as compared to the male enrollment. In BECS, the female enrollment is more than 65% of the total enrollment. Now, we have 85% of the teaching staff are female teachers. So we are very proud to claim that BECS is the Ministry of Federal Education's flagship female empowerment project. I am grateful to Allah, and then after that I am grateful to my mother, because of whom I am sitting here and talking to you. It was because of her long 16 years of commitment to education that I am here, educated and speaking to you. So the importance of female education is far, far higher than what we normally even imagine. BECS is looking towards creating linkages. BECS is trying to identify partners. We would like to invite friends who could not, for example, donate money or in kind, but they could speak for us. They could further our cause, which is extremely strategic, as I said earlier. So, cutting this long speech short, BECS is here to supplement the formal system and not to compete with the formal system. We fill the gap. We go to areas where there are no roads, where there are no short-term hopes of any formal system coming in. So please support this initiative. Everybody can play a role, and believe me, your contribution will go a long way in the security of this state. Thank you so much.
I thought this was a great moment to share BECS. I know Jaita is here supporting BECS and doing lots of things, but I hope many more partners will come forward and we will see this program grow and many more connecting with BECS. A friend here who's been sitting in education sector for a long time, and they're two friends actually sitting next to each other. But Narka Sultana has been fighting for right to education and critical thinking all the way through. Whether it is ASER or the Children's Literature Festival and other initiatives that have taken this, looking for work with lots of communities, with civil society, with youth on right to education, and to be able to look at how to best to foster creativity and critical thinking, and being a supporter of ASER. Nargis, you've been sitting at every ASER launch. What do you think is going to be different? And how do you see these partnerships moving forward?
Thank you very much, Vera. I think I'm very pleased at the launch of this ASER today. I think I have been almost at every launch because we at Open Society Foundations have been supporting ASER from the very beginning. And first of all, I would like to congratulate the team for timely completion of the survey and launch of this report. Because you see, it's a huge exercise covering 144 districts. Is not a small effort. So I think every year they have done a tremendous effort, and we really appreciate and acknowledge the effort.
Thank you.
Because as Bella has already mentioned, that there have been thousands and thousands of volunteers who collected this data. And I think it's their continuous engagement, their hard work, their enthusiasm, I think, by which it has been possible to have a timely publication of annual status of education report. Okay, as you all know that this is a citizen-led effort, and I think the focus has been very much on quality education. Because we all believe that it's not only the access to education, but it's the quality education which have been very much important. And I think through ASER, where this quality and the learning have been very much in the spotlight, is very much important. And today we can see that ASER data is being used by all stakeholders. We have seen that, I think, in the development of the provincial education sector plans, the ASER findings have been used, ASER data is being used. And in economic survey, every year the ASER findings are reflected. Even in global monitoring report also, the ASER findings are reflected. So I think it's not only at the national level, but even at the global level as well, there is recognition of the annual status of education report. And we all know that it is also informing right to education debate, because as an educationist, we all believe that the implementation of right to education, which is very much important. Like you see, in 2010, there have been this Article 25A, and it has been so many years. I think still we are struggling with this issue, which is the implementation of right to education. And we have been supporting our partners throughout the country for this right to education. I think even in this hall also today, there are many partners with whom we are working are sitting here. Until date, I think it is good that there are laws in all the 4 provinces and also in Islamabad Capital Territory. The next step is important, which is the rules for implementation that is in Sindh and only in Islamabad Capital Territory. I think it is important that there should be rules in all the provinces, and the most important thing is the implementation. And I think we, through our partners, are working on the movements, at the grassroots movements, because we believe that the bottom-up approach is very much important, and working at the local level, at the union council level even, so that we could make a difference, we could focus on the marginalized communities. And one thing which is very much important is that, you see, there are 2 things which are important. I think today Professor Rafiq is sitting here, who is a great champion in the education. We have worked together for many years. So I think we need champions, we need leaders, and even in this hall today there are many champions and many leaders, I think, who actually want to do a lot of work. So there are 2 things which are important. One is working with the government for systemic improvement, for institutionalization, for scalability, and the other element is also important, which is making government accountable. And I think one thing which is very important now, the next year for the upcoming elections, it's very important that we need to make our politicians accountable. Sometimes I say, and people think that I am saying this, but this is reality. I think we have to make our politicians accountable, because you are giving the vote. And some of our partners are going to start the Vote for Education campaign. And that will be at the local level, at the constituency level. Because you see, it's very much important that we need to take their commitment for the education. And it's not only that education as one of the priorities, but I think we need to make sure that education should be at the top priority on their manifestos, so that whosoever will be in the government, we could make them accountable on the basis of their promises. And I think we have to empower our citizens, we have to give them the voice, and I think this is how we can make the change happen. One other thing that Bella Ji have mentioned about the critical thinking in education, I think at the Open Society Foundation, this is a program which is very much focusing on the quality education. And we are working, I think through this program, we are working with the government institutions from all over the countries. And it's very much important that we need to see the linkages of the quality education component. Like for example, we all say that there have been curriculum review in 2007, and even currently also I'm glad that the Ministry of Education has taken the lead and they have involved the partners in the curriculum review. Our partners also work very closely with the government, and as a result we have the National Curriculum Framework. But important thing is that there should be linkages of the teacher training when I talk about the critical thinking with the curriculum, with the textbook, and also with the examination or the assessment system. I think we should not see any component in isolation. We need to see the linkages of all these education quality components, and we have to strengthen our institutions. But I very much believe that now it's the time from evidence to action. I think there is an evidence in terms of ASER, but it's the time of action that is one thing. And from assessment to improve learning, and that is also very much important. We need to take the follow-up action so that ASER report does not remain as a report which is kept in the shelf, but actually there are follow-up actions at the local level. We need to work with the government, with the local community, and including governance, politicians at all levels of governance, so that there is an action, there is improved learning outcomes, and actually making sure that all children who are out of school, they are in school and they are getting the quality education. And one thing which is very much important, that if we all will work together, government, civil society, all donors, community, teachers, I think only then we can make a difference, and we really need to work closely, we need to work all together so that we are able to achieve the goal, which is the quality education.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nargis.
Always passionate, but all the pieces that you are talking about, and as the puzzles around this panel come together, last but not least, Musharraf Zaidi, heading Alif Elan, another big social movement, lots of alliances, Idara, Education Youth Ambassadors, and so many are part of that. But also the important work that Alif Elan does, again, through many partners, to bring the value addition to the education landscape, and most importantly for action. Musharraf, your views on ASER 2016, and where do we go from here?
Thank you, Bela. It's always, this is I believe my 5th consecutive turn at this occasion. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, salam to everybody here. I've spent the afternoon in a state of anxiety and panic, because it's very easy to look at these numbers and ask some questions about who is at this table and who isn't. The 188 people voted for the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister yesterday, and it seems all of them are in waiting to become a federal minister, hence none of them could make it here. Of course, there's another party that's already anointed as the next government, and all 30-odd of their MNAs were also too busy to be here. So we can lament the fact that political representation is missing here, but I choose to look at the positive of Abbas and Rafiq Saab being here, which I think is great. We could look at whose money is here and whose isn't. We could look at the fact that DFID is here and a foreign government finds these issues more important and more urgent than perhaps our own government, and we can lament that fact. Or we can celebrate the fact that we have an enabling, helping hand from a friendly country, and that actually the real movement that this country is experiencing on many social issues, including accountability, but especially, I think, partly because of the bias that we've been working on this for a few years, of education. What has changed in education? Again, we can lament at what hasn't changed or what's only changed a little bit, but in the last 4 years, there's been over 125,000 teachers that were hired through the NTS testing system. This is an unprecedented wave of merit-based recruitment in our public sector. Does that mean that quality is going to improve immediately? No, of course we know that after the hiring, the mass hiring of all these new teachers, these teachers have been added to a cohort of about 600,000 public school teachers. It's going to take some time for those improvements to take place. And those improvements aren't going to take place automatically. It's going to be because of the activists in this room, this community of people that does value being here, that does value the leadership of Bela Raza Jameel and others in the room represented by many of the organizations here, that this is an important community and that what the work that you all have been doing is the reason why the government was forced to hire 125,000 teachers based on merit, and it was only luck and good fortune that we had the helping hand of maybe DFID in the Punjab that was supporting that. Similarly, we need to look at the fact that the budget for education has increased massively. Over 300 billion rupees are being allocated this year to education as compared to what was allocated in 2013. So it was about 580 billion rupees cumulatively for all the provinces and the Federation in 2013-14. In the most recently passed budget, it was about 900 billion. So it's a massive increase. And again, it's the pressure and the joint action and the push from this community of activists that's actually led to that increase. Now, does that mean that all of that money is being used ideally? Of course not. And we can see that there's only a small change and improvement in quality, only a small increase in the number of people that are, number of children that are attending school. But these small increases are something that we should take heart from and we should take enormous credit for. We should thank Bela Raza Jameel and everybody that works at IDA. We should thank DFID and we should thank each other. All of the people in this room work on this issue and I think deserve a lot of credit. It's easy to beat ourselves up. It's easy. Pakistanis are very, very good at this. But actually, we have an enormous opportunity, alhamdulillah, with the next year and a half. We are going to have something akin to an election, inshallah, fingers crossed. And when we do, it's going to give us an unprecedented opportunity to push the political system of this country to deliver what is the right of every single Pakistani child, which is not that brilliant men like Abbas are forced to work on things like BECS, but which is that the world's best education should be available to Pakistan's least privileged child. And until we get there, inshallah, we'll all keep working together and keep pushing under the leadership of Bela and the banner of this fantastic effort that is ASER that comes out every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Musharraf. Just to say that actually the team that does it all, other than many partners present here, all sitting here, and Seher leads that team, I'm also trying desperately to create the second generation because that's so important. But also remember that education is a political opportunity. We have to remind our political leaders again and again. And Rafiq Sahab, you will have the last one-liner, because what we want to say is that ASER, and I'm so grateful to you for all the positives that you said about ASER and how it is being used and how it is extending the boundaries of the evidence we are collecting. Do we see ASER with the Federal Ministry of Education and Professional Training being seen as a mainstream agenda in the way we not just track the data but also improve learning? Rafiq Sahab, we want really as a champion, your last call so that in the session today, so that we can see ASER and its work from assessment to improvement of learning grow from strength to strength.
Bela, my presence over here is the evidence that we are owning the ASER in the ministry, and inshallah it will be one of the best initiatives in the future with the ministry, and we will work together.
Thank you. Come and please present our honorable panelists with this, and I just want to tell you, we have all of these links of the ASER products that have been produced, and I want to let you know that today we thought 120 people will come. We have 200 people today, in spite of all the political drama. So thank you very much. All these links, whether it is ASER 2016 Rural Tracking SDG 4, ASER Pakistan Trends 2013 and 16, thematic notes from all the ASER contributors to the ASER presentation, and everything is going to be there with you. Just go to www.aserpakistan.org and we've got your emails. We'll be sending them out to you and through SMSs. So please get out to this data. This is your data. It's raw, it's live. make it yours and multiply it, because that's where the value addition of ASER is, because it is people's data and it is being collected by the honest integrity of the citizens of Pakistan and the youth of Pakistan. Thank you very much from my side. Thank you to the panelists, and I think we've deserved a cup of tea.